Anyhow, there was a question here earlier about where do ideas come from and how do they form. So I'll talk about my next book, which I just finished and was approved by the publisher a couple of weeks ago, and will be out come January. It's gone through 3 different titles. It started out as The Third Day, and then it became Final Hours. Right now, working title is Final Hour. Publisher wants to link it to my other books, even though it's really not related. So here's how a book idea can start. Robin and I had driven down to Greenville, South Carolina to pick up George Norrie. How many of you ever listened to George's program, Coast to Coast? Really, he's got a great late night radio show. He has very strange people. It's usually about aliens and all this, but about every other week, George will do a real serious program. And the issue of infrastructure security is very important to George. And it's kind of fun being on his show because people will call in and they'll ask a question and they say, I've got one more thing to say. I'm what? And the person said, I know it's going to happen. I'd be like, why? Well, ever since them aliens kidnapped me and put that thing in my belly button, it talks back to me. It told me we're going to be EMP'd someday. So I said, okay, thanks. So, but if you want to have some fun, listen to George Norrie. So Robin and I picked George up. She was terrifying George, the way she drives. She likes hot cars. And she just suddenly blurted out, you know, how much warning time, George and I were talking about something regarding CME, and it was, how much warning time would we actually have if there was a CME? You know, coronal mass ejection, explosion off the surface of the sun, travels a lot lower than the speed of light. Warning time could be anywhere from 18 to 20 hours out to 3 days, depending upon the velocity of the coronal mass ejection. So I answered Robin, and then Robin said, boy, that would be a really interesting story. What would happen in those last 48 hours before it did? I was like, damn it, you just gave me my next book. Because I just finished writing and I wanted to relax for 6 months. And thus it was, I went to contract with my publisher, Tor Forge, and then I had 18 months of angst trying to figure out what I was going to write because, you know, when I initially thought about it, it's a foregone conclusion. If we had a 48-hour warning that a CME was about to hit, what would the government do? They'd screw it up. They screw up everything. They would screw up the preparedness. The only thing that would make the difference is we ourselves, we the people. But is that a good novel? And then, while trying to figure that out, back in the fall, I'm doing more research, and suddenly I came across something very nasty, a subtype of solar flare. I'm not going to bore you with the long technical name, but if it hit us in a particular way, it's an ELE, extinction level event. And it was like, gosh, oh, for the hell of it, I'm just going to kill everybody on the planet and get it done with. So what would happen if we all knew we only had maybe 2 days? And there would be such a radiation hit from the sun that for 99% of the population, it would be endgame. Except for the 1% who are deep underground in what's called, I love all these acronyms, CG, continuity of government. I think you're aware that since the beginning of the nuclear age, government has been digging very deep bunkers and shelters. I used one in Final Day. And these people would survive. Now, what would happen when they came out? Well, they would continue the government, which would be reassuring to the rest of us. Well, because we're all dead. But they would still collect taxes. And to get to the punchline, I couldn't get the book going, and then about 4 months ago, I was talking with a friend. I was out in Springfield, Missouri for a program. She commented about the deep caverns that are under Springfield, and the idea for the book actually hit. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. So that book is called Final Day. It will be out come January, and it is about what would happen if we knew we were in a countdown and there was a high probability, life on this planet might pretty well be wiped. And a little bit of my motivation in writing that relates to a question a gentleman asked in the last session and was referred to by one of the writers as well. All this conflict between left and right, conservative, liberal, all of it. Suppose we were actually in an end game. Would it really matter at that point? What would become the most important things to us if we had but a day or two left? Would all these political arguments suddenly become meaningless? So I tried to set like a character study of how different people would react when they realize, hey, ultimately, the beauty of life is about ourselves and those we love, and wanting to spend those precious moments with that person. So that's what the book's about. Yeah, it might depress you, but what the heck, most of this stuff does.